Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Welcome to the 8th installment in my Age of Worms recap series. Today we are taking a look at the Prince of Redhand, which appeared in Dungeon Magazine issue 121 from February of 2006. This is an adventure path installment for characters of 15th level, and they should reach 16th level during the course of the adventure. So this particular adventure takes the characters to the location of Alhaster, which is north of the free city of Greyhawk. And what's really interesting about this particular adventure is it's 3 adventures rolled into one. And if you take a look here, it does say you get the free poster map of the city of Alhaster, which we have here. And it says it has 3 adventures, which is sort of true. It's one adventure with 3 parts, I think is really kind of what we have here. But again, there's some really awesome cover art here for the Age of Worms. You have like the spawn of Caius there. This also tells us that the dire secrets of the Ebon Triad are finally revealed. So at the end of the last adventure, the characters were trying to trace the steps of a researcher, an individual by the name of Balakard. And Manzarin in the city of Mage Point had allowed the characters to use some paintings that he had commissioned that served as guides for teleportation magic to teleport the characters to the Spire of Long Shadows back in the Cauldron region, which was a really cool sort of touch on the previous adventure path, sort of a nice little callback to it, to explore an area that was mentioned in the previous adventure path and appeared on maps, but was never actually used. Now, they were unable to find Balakard there, but they were able to determine that after the Spire of Long Shadows, it's likely that he went to the city of Alhaster, which isn't necessarily the nicest place in the world, but when the characters arrive, they're looking to speak to a particular individual by the name of Lashona. And the only information that they're able to gain is that she's quite hard to track down, but she should be making an appearance at one of the upcoming social event of the century, as Prince Zeech has a dinner party in his honor to dedicate an anniversary of his assuming rulership of the city of Alhaster. And the characters need to find a way to attend this dinner party. And there's a few different ways for them to get the invite there. One of them involves them finding an individual who has the extra spare tickets that were initially going to be sent to individuals who were unable to make it. And this individual wants to have adventurer types there as a way of kind of breaking up some of the monotony of a lot of these like noble-based affairs. But while they're in Alhaster, they do learn a couple bits of information, including the fact that there is a hideout that is very important to the organization known as the Ebon Triad within the city, which will lead them to another short adventure a little bit later on. So when they arrive in the city, they make their contacts. They're sort of given a push towards finding this Ebon Triad hideout and dealing with the individuals there in order to attend the dinner party there, the 20 Years of Joy with Prince Zeech and his the anniversary of his rule. The characters find a location known as the Well of Triptych Knowledge, and this is where all the secrets of the Ebon Triad are revealed. And as it turns out, the Ebon Triad is nothing more than sort of a proxy to be used to sort of push along events from the Age of Worms. Particularly the prophecy that a tripartite spirit will be reunited, and that reuniting of that spirit will further along or help usher in the Age of Worms. As it turns out, it was created by the cult of Caius, by tricking followers of the deities of Erythnol, Hextor, and Vecna into thinking that their individual gods were once all part of one over-god. In an early installment of the Adventure Path, there was a Ebon Triad stronghold that the players went to, and they did fight sort of a physical representation of this overgod. But here they learn the true secrets of the Ebon Triad, the fact that they are sort of created under false pretenses and they're effectively being used and manipulated by the minions of Caius to sort of further their agenda. However, while they're here, they also do find a ledger, which appears to be relatively useless initially. However, there is a secret page spell cast on it, which has a listing of the major players in the Ebon Triad, many of whom the players have already taken on and defeated, like the Faceless One and a few other minions. And with that, they see that their names actually have lines drawn through them. And there are a few other names that the players can deal with if they so choose. But one of the interesting entries is that it mentions that the dragon of Ilthrain, who they defeated from way further back in the adventure path, had her main lair here in the city of Alhaster. They also come face to face with the true manifestation of the Overgod here. So this is an advanced version of the one that they fought earlier on, which has it's a large 6-armed creature with hands missing off of some of its arms. Other arms end in sort of these really sharp claws. It has an eye missing to look like Vecna. It has the 6 arms of Hextor and the savage fury of Erythnol. And this was actually a pretty awesome fight for my group to go through. And it is encountered in Area 3 here. Area 4, which is where the Overgod's court was. And yeah, that was an absolutely brutal fight. And it's within the vault that they find the ledger, along with several other items. And again, that ledger can point them towards Ilthane's lair. I don't know why I said Thrain. I apologize. I'm really bad with names. Now, Ilthane's lair. Ilthane was defeated in a previous installment of the Adventure Path. However, upon her defeat, 4 of her children make their way to Alhaster in order to gain control of her lair. And you can actually see the 4 dragons there. Now, these 4 dragons do not get along well with one another and began fighting almost immediately, which caused a large number of alchemical concoctions within Ilthane's lair to be knocked to the ground, spilled, and combined to form this abomination of this alchemical, I think it's an alchemical golem. Where's the stats on it there? Sorry, the Acid Wraith is what it's called. And again, this was another pretty brutal fight. The fight with the 4 dragons was okay, but yeah, we'll take a look at the stats of the Acid Wraith here in a little bit. But yeah, that was a pretty brutal fight as well. But those are just sort of some minor things to do, some options for your characters to go through and explore to get the combat sort of out of the way, because the main event of this adventure installment absolutely is the dinner party with Prince Zeech. And this was one of the most fun things I have ever run in my years of DMing. The dinner party was just absolutely fantastic. And one of my favorite memories of this whole thing was just how much into it the half-orc barbarian in this campaign really got. Now, the half-orc barbarian's name cannot be said in this video because it could lead to demonetization, but it was a 3-letter variant of a 4-letter word, and that's where I will leave it at. But having this barbarian just really get into being prepared for this party, having people come in and be paid to make over the character, like having him basically soak in a lavender bath for hours to be sort of primped and pruned and primed for this event. It was absolutely fantastic. And there were some really cool events that took place during the course of the dinner party. There's also some very interesting NPCs like Hemris here, who is a human female, half fiend. And she's got half of her, face looks like that of a beautiful woman. The other half is this really twisted, kind of not demonic, but sort of a twisted, corrupted version of that beauty. She's sort of hunchback. Again, just some really interesting art direction here. There were some other individuals like Bakris, who was this hobgoblin, or bugbear, leader of a mercenary band. You had Shag Solomon, who was a Quagoth. Again, just some really cool characters in here. But yeah, when the events actually begin, the player characters have the ability to make impressions, participate in events, and they can also earn authority points, which can be used later on in the campaign's conclusion to assist with events there. And I'll sort of explain how that ended up turning out by the time we get to the end of the video. I'm not going to go over every single situation or event that happens here, but my favorites start with the Harlequinade Mortificato, which was a performance piece where a number of skeletons come out and they do these like weird, bizarre reenacting of events. And as it turns out, these skeletons are all made from individuals, like court gestures or other individuals of note who, at one point or another over the course of the last 20 years of Prince Zeech's reign, have upset him to the point where they met with accidents. And their performances is actually a stylized recreation of their final moments, like the ways that they end up dying. Like some will sort of lean over something and then topple to indicate that they may have been pushed out of a high window, or they might take a drink of something, even though like the drink just sort of spills through their bones, but then sort of like, fall to the ground afterwards. It was really cool, really fun to run. There was also the Handsome Slaughter of Curious Avians, in which the players had a chance to outdo Prince Zeech in sort of like a bird shooting. Like birds would be released into the air. These birds actually left behind, they had like magical abilities that created like color sprays as they fly through the air. And the prince has an unfair advantage because he has a repeating crossbow. Everybody else gets to use like hand crossbows. And he ends up taking down 6 of them, and the other player characters have 3 rounds to try to beat that. And one individual did. That individual was the half-orc barbarian, who is starting to get on the prince's bad side because of the fact that he keeps doing well in these situations and keeps earning authority points for the party. Eventually, there's also like a bowling event with like shrunken heads, and Lashana does arrive fashionably late. However, the players do obviously make an impression on her as well. The feast has some very curious dishes, some of which actually require like fortitude saving throws to be able to swallow down and not immediately spit back out. But if the players were able to hold it in, some of these courses, it does help with their authority points. My favorite, though, was the sweet conclusion at the end, in which a cake coming out with Prince Zeech sort of looking triumphantly at this ziggurat that he is constructing in the city, which was supposed to be done by the time the celebration began, and it's not, and that's why the prince is kind of in a dour mood throughout most of the evening. But they have this cake with him looking triumphantly at this ziggurat that's being constructed. However, as the helpers are bringing the cake in, the marzipan Prince Zeech falls down, hits the table, and the head falls off, and it rolls into the lap of the player character that has annoyed the prince the most. And when that happens, there was a brief window where if any of the players had like a witty remark that they could make, it would cause everybody to burst into laughter and would also gain them authority points, which again will come in handy at the end of the campaign. And of course, it ended up rolling into the lap of the half-orc barbarian. And I wish I could remember what the joke was that he or one of the other players made, because it was pretty good, but we're also talking about something that I ran over a decade ago now. So unfortunately, some details are just going to be kind of left out. But yeah, overall, it was a really fun time. After the dessert, the prince sort of just gets up and leaves while everybody applauds him as he goes. And Lashana makes contact with the player characters, knowing that they are seeking her out, and agrees to meet with them, which will be the beginning part of the next installment of the Age of Worms adventure path. So yeah, overall, some really cool stuff here. Again, we'll take a look at the Acid Wraith here. This is a challenge rating 16 creature, 142 hit points, or 143 hit points with a fast healing mechanic. and a plus 20 to hit for 4d6 plus 10 damage, as well as 2d6 acid and other tendrils that come off it for attacks. So the Acid Wraith was, again, a really cool creature to fight, as was the aspect of the Overgod that was created as a puppet of the Cultus of Caius to use to manipulate the Ebon Triad. So again, a really cool installment of the adventure path. The dinner party, again, was sort of the highlight of all of this, with the other things just being sort of like short diversions that the players end up going through. This one actually went relatively quickly. I want to say that I finished this entire chapter in like 1 or 2 sessions. I don't think it was any more than that. And as far as like the combat scenarios go, they were okay. I will say that the revelation that the Ebon Triad was merely a puppet of the Cult of Caius was a cool revelation, and the players were kind of surprised by that, but it did feel a little underwhelming taking place in just a 5-room little dungeon, sort of dungeonette type of setting. I would have preferred if that revelation could have either happened sooner and have a much larger, much more interesting location to explore, rather than just sort of being like this 5-room sort of location. But it was still, a cool revelation nonetheless. The alchemical accident that brought forth the Acid Wraith was kind of cool, but the honestly the whole thing with Ilthane's lair was, again, a little bit on the underwhelming side. The 4 dragons was an okay fight, but it wasn't honestly that memorable. But the dinner party, my God, did I have fun running the dinner party and having the players sort of role play through certain scenarios. They get to do some attacks with with hunting the birds. There was another thing that had like a pair of cockatrices that would sort of attack a bunch of other smaller animals, and there were people that were able to control them with these magic rings. And whoever got the most, stoned the most creatures, and then ended up winning in a one-on-one fight between the cockatrices at the end. Again, something that the player characters did using certain types of roles. It was kind of a precursor to what we would have as skill challenges later on in 4th edition. So you had a lot of different skills and abilities being used over the course of the dinner party. But it was just my favorite part of this whole adventure was hands down running the dinner party and just seeing this half-orc barbarian try to navigate the waters in amongst like these nobles and people of high upbringing, and here he is, just this lowly half-orc who's wearing like a puffy pirate shirt from like Seinfeld, smelling of like lavender and lilacs, and being all like his hair coiffed, and it was just a fantastic time. And this was definitely a highlight for the Age of Worms adventure path. So I hope you guys enjoyed this look at the Prince of Redhand. We are definitely getting into the end game now, and things are going to start getting very, very interesting. And the next installment, if the next installment is the one that I'm thinking it is, the Library of Last Resort, we are getting to my favorite moment in the entirety of the Age of Worms adventure path. So I hope you guys come back for that video. It should be out sometime in October. But for now, I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who has watched this video, as well as this series. If you played through the Age of Worms back in the day, or even currently under like 5th edition rules, or even running it back with 3.5 rules, let me know what some of your experiences were. How did the dinner party go for you? If you were a player participating in it, or if you were a DM running it. I look forward to hearing that. Anyway, once again, thank you all so very, very much. I appreciate it so more than you know, and I will see you all next time. Until then, take care.